This is Monty with Bill Brothers. Started my digital inspection for a realtor. We're at a property in the Santee area. And for these digital inspections, we always like to start underneath the eaves just to get an idea of the condition of the wood. The eaves consist of, we have the fascia, we have the rafter tails, and then normally we have the starter boards, but we actually have plywood in place of the starter boards. And the eaves look pretty good. There's a couple spots that are missing paint, but looks like some parts were painted fairly recently. We're looking underneath here. Doesn't seem too bad. So anyways, moving on. What we're looking at here is a architectural asphalt shingle roof. There is drip edge. Drip edge is that metal flashing that gets put on the outside perimeter to allow for water to freely flow off anytime it rains so it doesn't soak into that fascia board. This is a good sign. And then we have a modified bitumen torch down on the flat section. So a very common failure point for the flat sections is going to be on the edge, right? So you see the mastic starts to dry out, and that material actually pulls back as it bakes in the sun because it shrinks, right? So you're going to see small openings around the outside start to appear as the product ages. And a couple areas that were concerning to me were these spots, right? You see the drip edge. I'm not sure what pushing this up, but this is a very vulnerable spot, especially for rain. Rain is going to get right into that crack and go underneath this, right? And because it's flat, well, that water is going to just sit there and soak into the wood. So it's definitely an area of concern. And we can see the drip edge is actually forming some sort of lip. So you can see, again, that smooth layer that gets put underneath the cap sheet is actually starting to crumble, and you can see where water tends to collect here. So it tends to collect on this edge and then right smack in the middle. But again, another area similar to the front, you see that drip edge is starting to, come up a little bit. So definitely an area of concern where water could potentially get through. Okay, moving on. Another funky area that I wanted to point out is this part. So I'm not sure what happened to the wood. It almost looks like the wood was burnt. I'm not sure. Maybe it was a type of style, right? And maybe they just barely burnt the outside. I'm not sure, but that's what it looks like to me. And we do see it almost looks like two layers. So we have one torch down, and then we have a secondary one as well. And you can see that there is some sort of flashing. It looks like a counter flashing with a lip on the top, and then we can see the step flashing going up there. But yeah, this area is a little funky. And we don't want any exposed wood, especially like this, because that's just gonna get, either eaten away by termites or soaked by the water. Okay, moving on. Another thing we like to look out for is the seam stagger. So proper seam stagger is gonna be at least 6 inches apart on each course. So you see one seam, 6 inches, another seam, 6 inches. It's not gonna be perfectly 6 inches, but right, we do see proper seam stagger. So that's a good sign. It means it was properly nailed. But this is another vulnerability. So we have exposed nail heads on the ridge cap. These normally need to get covered up. So that is a potential leak. Same thing over here. This one was actually sealed up, but this one was kept open. So definitely an area of concern. Now there is solar on the back of this house, and looks like it was professionally installed, but I did notice a couple shingle tabs that were ripped up. It looks like when they were installing the anchor points, they actually lifted these up too much and actually broke them. So you can see a ginormous crack right there and then right there. There might be more that I missed, but those are the ones that I'm seeing right now. But so far it looks like a professional install for the solar. And then another thing I noticed is this little part right here, it's actually starting to, you can see how it's kind of swooping down. So not sure what's going on with the wood underneath here, but that part is really weak. Okay. Another thing we like to pay attention to is the penetrations. So that's going to be any sewer pipes, T-tops. We have the heat vents, and then we do have, you know, open seals right here. So we want to make sure that these are actually sealed, because anytime these seals get broken, well, that's another vulnerable area for water to get into. So rain is definitely going to get into this as of now. So you definitely want to make sure that these are sealed up. You can see a couple of the others were actually sealed, and this just happens over time. And another thing, we have this pergola addition in the backyard. This one I'm not a fan of. You know, we have a ton of mastic. That just, you know, tells me that this has a lot of leak vulnerabilities. And there's been a lot of effort to mitigate that with this mastic. So water is definitely gonna have a very easy time getting in between this pergola and roof junction. So I would recommend you know, finding a better, more easier way to transition this, because this is gonna, you know, water's gonna soak into this very easily. So I'll send over a solution to the homeowner. But yeah, that part looks concerning. Seems about it. But my recommendation for this roof, I think the shingle part is fair. It's in fair condition. Looks like it was, you know, several years old. It doesn't seem too old. There's not a ton of granule loss. And the torch down. The torch down is my main concern on this roof, because of all the areas that's actually pulled back. And then same thing with the drip edge. There's a lot of standing water right here, and then there's this little corner right there that is pretty concerning. So we could do a couple things. I mean, more of a band-aid fix would be to do a tune-up, right? But ultimately, if we want to make sure that this stays watertight, you know, long term, I'm going to always recommend for flat sections to use a TPO product. TPO is a synthetic material. It's used on a lot of commercial buildings. It's highly reflective against the UV rays, and it makes this entire surface into one single membrane. So it does a very good job at keeping water out long term. So, you know, none of this standing water is going to be of a concern. So that would be a more permanent fix for this back, or this front section, excuse me. And then these nails, actually, these definitely need to get sealed up. And then same thing with the penetrations. Those need to get resealed with mastic, and then have a better transition right here. Thank you.